101. You know, today is August the 19th, 2014. Today I'm going to post something, and it's probably going to take me 2 videos to do this, about the situation going on in Ferguson, Missouri. You know, I've gotten to a point to where I'm beginning to feel that the situation in Ferguson have became a fiasco. You know, people not understanding or trying to understand what goes on. You know, I kind of wish I was the chief of police of Ferguson, you know, because what I've seen happening on the police side and on the citizens of the community side is pure D, and this is my opinion, ignorance. Pure D ignorance. First, you know, before I get into this, I am pro-police, but I'm pro-right about what a police officer does. And I understand the procedures that go on that most people don't understand, because I've been privy or had a career in law enforcement. And I understand how citizens feel about police. So I might make some people angry in what I'm getting ready to say, because it really doesn't make any sense for how things are going in Ferguson. So let's take the issue of Michael Brown being shot by a police officer. And I want to make sure that you understand that I'm not defending this police officer, and I'm not going to defend Michael Brown. You know, even though everybody got upset about the video that was released of the young man in a store taking cigars or cigar wrappers or whatever those little things is in that package from a store, and then physically putting his hand on the store clerk. Okay, that's some evidence that basically says that we know that Michael Brown do some things. You know, he ain't the little angel that his grandfather tried to portray him as, and maybe his mom and his dad portray him as. It's natural for a parent to believe and to think that my child won't do this and my child won't do that. I'm a person who have 2 children, well 3, I have 3 children, all girls, and I have grandchildren, boys and girls. I would never ever in my mind think that they're angels because of the way they are with me and the mom and the grandmother at home. Because once they walk out that door and they get out of your sight, you have no idea of what they're doing in the streets, unless people are talking about it. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get to the shooting part of it. You know, from what I've seen and observed and read about this situation, is that this officer, Wilson, I think his name is, was going down the street, driving down the street, And I can deal with this from a personal experience, from personal experiences in dealing with some of the young men in the community. He see two people walking down the street. He pulls up to them. He tells them, "Hey man, could y'all use, or ask them or tell them or whatever, to get out of the middle of the street, use the sidewalk." And I'm pretty sure that, knowing young men, young black men of today, and young black women, some young black women of today, they probably had something smart to say about this young man, say back to this police officer. And as he passed by, there is a possibility that he heard on the radio that someone had committed a shoplifting at whatever store it was, and in the process of doing that, they put their hands on the clerk. That's where your strong arm robbery comes in. You don't have to have a gun or a knife or any of that. If you're taking something and you assault the person who owned the store or the clerk of the store, you assault him, that makes it strong arm robbery. Okay, people need to understand that, why this strong arm robbery thing came up. Well, and this is just a scenario. This is just my opinion of what I think went on. We saw the autopsy thing yesterday. On the 18th, we saw these top-notch professionals with their autopsy. And they was discussing and explaining and all of this stuff about where the bullets were fired at and what hit him and what went in and came out, went back in, and this, that, and another. Let me explain something to you. There's a couple of shots on his hands. One of them being on his, I believe it was his right, it might have been his left hand or right hand, either one. It was one of the hands. I have to see that again. Okay, and this is just my scenario of what might have happened. When this police officer passed by them and asked them to get out of the street, their smart remarks or whatever it is they might have said, and he might have got that call on the radio, prompted him to stop, back up, and get ready to get out of the car. When he got ready to get out of the car, and this is just my opinion and my belief because I've had it happen to me and I've seen it happen to other police officers. When he got ready to get out of the car, he opened his door to get out. Either Michael Brown and or the guy Johnson pushed the door back on him, forcing him back into the unit. The natural instinct, at least my natural instinct, would have been to reach for and unholster my weapon, because now I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm thinking along the lines of this. He shoves the door in on the man, and he's getting his gun, he's pulling that gun out of that holster. He runs his hand in there, right or left hand in there, to try to stop him from getting that gun out of the holster. But his hand got there too late, and the officer pulled the trigger. Now, whether he was hit by the bullet or not, the natural instinct of any human being that I've ever seen is to bolt, is to run. Now that's what I believe triggered this. This police officer didn't just jump out of that car and start shooting Michael Brown. Something triggered the situation. Something made the situation turn into a deadly situation. And people need to try to understand this. Something triggered the situation. Something started the incident. What started the incident? Have anybody tried to figure that out? What really started the incident? Now, the scenario that I just gave you is what I believe triggered it. That's what started it. Now, once Michael Brown and Mr. Johnson took off running, and the officer finally got himself together, got out of the unit, and chased him, and shot him, he was wrong. You don't shoot a fleeing felon. You don't shoot a fleeing felon, armed or unarmed, unless he turns and have a gun to defend you. I mean, to try to shoot you or whatever. You don't shoot a fleeing felon. Now, if all of the things that I've heard, that Michael Brown was running and then he stopped and took the I surrender position, hands up or whatever, and the officer shot him, he was most definitely wrong for shooting and killing him. In my opinion, that is murder. Just the bottom line. That is murder. Okay? And the officer was wrong and should be prosecuted. Now, we have the situation of an officer shooting an unarmed man. Now, here's a police officer who have never had a complaint. He's never, been in anything or all of that stuff. But he is guilty, as far as I'm concerned, based on what I've seen so far, of killing Michael Brown, without a doubt. What people need to understand is there's a procedure that you go through. Why don't they release his name? Why don't they charge him? Why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? Number one, releasing his name only puts him and his family in danger because of the way people think and the things that people want to do. You give them his name, they find out where he lived, now they're in front of his house, his family, jeopardizing his family. It's a great tragedy. It's a tragedy that Michael Brown got shot. But it's something that triggered that situation. Now I'm going to stop this tape right here. Then I'm going to move to the next one. Because there's a lot of explaining that needs to be done so that people can understand that, this is not just a cut and dry deal when it comes to law enforcement officials. There has to be some things figured out. We need to know, one thing we need to know is what triggered it, what caused it. Now you can believe the police officer's version of it, or you can believe Johnson's version of it. Michael Brown isn't here to tell his version of it. Okay? So go to part 2 and see what I have to say on part 2. Ciao. Thank you for viewing this video. God bless you. God bless America. And God bless those in Ferguson, Missouri.